There is a woman sitting across the room. She isn't the youngest person there. She isn't wearing the trendiest outfit or the loudest perfume. She isn't trying to be noticed. She isn't performing for anyone. She isn't laughing too loudly or shrinking too quietly. She is simply sitting there, completely at ease in her own skin, and yet every single person in that room is quietly, almost involuntarily drawn to her. Eyes drift in her direction. Conversations pause when she speaks. People lean in. People remember what she says long after the evening is over, and she has no idea, absolutely no idea, just how magnetic she truly is. Do you know a woman like that? Or more importantly, could that woman be you? Because here's what most people don't understand about attraction. Here's what the world gets completely, fundamentally wrong about what makes a woman truly, deeply, irresistibly attractive, especially as she grows older, especially as she steps into the fullness of who she really is. The world has sold us a lie, a very profitable lie, as it turns out, a lie worth billions of dollars in anti-aging creams and cosmetic procedures and fashion magazines and diet culture. The lie goes something like this: that a woman's attractiveness peaks young, burns bright, and then slowly, inevitably, tragically fades. That wrinkles are enemies. That gray hair is surrender. That the number on your birthday cake is a countdown to irrelevance. But what if that entire story is wrong? What if the truth is not only different, but the complete opposite? What if some of the most profoundly, magnetically, genuinely attractive women in the world are not the youngest ones in the room, but the ones who have lived the most, who have survived the most, who have discovered the most about themselves and the world around them? What if real attraction, the kind that lingers in the memory, the kind that commands respect, the kind that draws people in at a soul level rather than just a surface level, what if that kind of attraction isn't something that fades with age, but something that deepens with it? That is exactly what we are going to explore today. And I am going to show you 8 signs, 8 clear, powerful, unmistakable signs that you are a highly attractive older woman, even if you have spent years not realizing it, even if you have spent years being told otherwise, even if you look in the mirror some mornings and the only thing you see are the things you feel you've lost, rather than the extraordinary things you've actually gained. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear might change the way you see yourself forever. Welcome to The Heart Code, the channel where we decode the psychology of love, self-worth, attraction, and the extraordinary depth of the feminine experience. If you are new here, welcome home. This is a space built for women who are done settling, done shrinking, and ready to understand themselves at the deepest possible level. If you've been here before, you already know that we don't do shallow here. We go deep, we go real. We go to the places that actually matter. Before we dive into today's video, I want to take just a moment to ask you for something. If the content on this channel has ever moved you, helped you, made you feel seen, or given you something to think about, please take a second right now to like this video. It sounds like such a small thing, but it genuinely makes an enormous difference in helping this channel reach more women who need to hear exactly what you're about to hear. Share this video with a woman in your life, a friend, a sister, a mother, a colleague, someone who you think deserves to be reminded of just how remarkable she is. Leave a comment below and tell me, which of these 8 signs resonates most deeply with you? I read every single comment, and your words genuinely inspire the direction of future content. And if you haven't already subscribed to The Heart Code, please do that right now. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and join this growing community of women who are choosing to understand themselves more deeply, love themselves more fully, and live more authentically every single day. And if you want to go one step further, If this content touches your heart and you want to directly support the work we do here, you can show your love through Super Thanks. It means the world, and it keeps this channel going so we can keep creating content that actually matters. Now, let's talk about what it really means to be a highly attractive older woman, and why you might be one without even knowing it. Sign number 1. You have stopped performing and started simply being. Let's begin at the very foundation of everything, because this first sign is perhaps the most profound, and in many ways, it is the root from which all the others grow. Now, there is a version of attractiveness that is performance. It is calculated, it is constructed, it is a show put on for an audience, and like all performances, it is exhausting to maintain when women are young. And I say this not as a criticism, but as an observation of something most of us have lived through. There is often an enormous amount of energy spent on performing femininity, performing desirability, performing competence or softness or confidence or whatever quality seems most likely to earn approval in any given moment. There is a constant low-level monitoring happening. Am I coming across the right way? Do I seem too eager? Not eager enough? Too smart? Not smart enough? Too emotional? Not emotional enough? Am I likable? Am I lovable? Am I enough? This performance is not a character flaw. It is a response to a world that has, for a very long time, communicated to women that their worth is contingent on external approval. It is a survival strategy in many ways, and for a time, it makes a kind of sense. But here is what happens as a woman matures, as she accumulates years, as she experiences loss and love and failure and triumph, as she learns through living what actually matters and what absolutely does not. Gradually, quietly, and for many women, almost without noticing, the performance begins to stop. Not because she gives up, not because she stops caring about how she shows up in the world, but because something shifts at a fundamental level in her relationship with herself. She begins to realize, really, deeply realize, not just intellectually understand, but feel in her bones that she cannot spend one more precious minute of her life pretending to be someone she isn't in order to earn approval from people whose opinion of her was never going to complete her anyway. And when a woman stops performing and starts simply being, the transformation in how she comes across to other people is staggering. Absolutely staggering. Here is the psychological reality behind this. Human beings are wired, deeply evolutionarily wired, to detect authenticity. We are incredibly sensitive to the difference between someone who is genuinely present and someone who is putting on a show, even when we can't articulate exactly what we're detecting. There is a quality to authentic presence, a stillness, a groundedness, a sense of ease that is profoundly appealing at a primal level. When we encounter it, we feel safe, we feel drawn in, we feel somehow like we can breathe more easily. Researchers in social psychology have found that authenticity is consistently rated as one of the most attractive qualities a person can possess. Across cultures, across age groups, across contexts. More attractive than physical symmetry in many cases. More attractive than wealth or status. More attractive than any single physical feature. Because authenticity speaks to something real. And in a world saturated with performance, with filters, with carefully curated presentations of the self, something real is extraordinarily rare. And extraordinary rare things have an extraordinary kind of magnetism. Think about the women you have found most compelling in your life. Not just physically appealing, but genuinely magnetic. The kind of women whose presence you remember long after you've left the room. I am willing to bet that almost without exception, those women share this quality. There is something settled about them, something that communicates without words. I know who I am. I am not here to convince you of anything about me. I am simply here, exactly as I am, and I am completely at peace with that. That settledness, that profound, hard-won settledness, is not something most young women have, because it cannot be acquired young. It can only be earned through living, through going through the fire and coming out the other side and realizing you survived, through being left by people you loved and discovering you did not fall apart the way you feared, through failing at things that mattered and finding that failure did not define you, through changing your mind about who you are over and over and learning that this is not weakness but wisdom. The woman who has stopped performing is not a woman who has stopped caring about her appearance or her impact. She is a woman who has arrived at a deep and settled sense of her own worth that is no longer dependent on external validation to sustain it. She wears what she loves because she loves it, not because she's calculated what will make her look most appealing. She speaks her truth because it is her truth, not because she's trying to seem interesting. She laughs when she finds something genuinely funny, not to seem approachable. She is serious when she is genuinely serious, not to seem impressive. And people, absolutely everyone around her, can feel this. They can feel the absence of agenda. They can feel the presence of genuine humanity. And it is magnetic in the way that very few things in this world truly are. If you have reached a place in your life where you are increasingly done with performing, where the mask feels heavier than its worth, where the effort of being who you think others want you to be feels more exhausting than just being who you actually are, then hear this. That shift is not a sign that you're getting older and giving up. It is a sign that you are stepping into one of the most attractive versions of yourself you have ever been. The version that is real, the version that is whole, the version that, for perhaps the first time in your life, is simply powerfully and beautifully herself. And the world notices, even when you don't. There is a woman I want you to imagine for a moment. She is 53 years old. She has raised children, survived a difficult divorce, rebuilt her career twice, lost a parent she adored, and somewhere in the middle of all of that, gradually, slowly, found herself. She doesn't wear the clothes that magazines tell her are age-appropriate. She wears what makes her feel alive. She doesn't apologize when she disagrees with someone. She doesn't shrink her intelligence to make a less secure person comfortable. She doesn't laugh at jokes she doesn't find funny. She doesn't pretend to be interested in things that bore her. And she doesn't spend a single second of any day wondering whether she is enough. She walks into a room and something changes. Not something you could measure. Not something you could capture on paper. Just something. A quality of presence. A gravitational pull. And when people try to describe why they find her so compelling, they usually end up using words like real or grounded or genuine. What they are describing, what they sense in her and cannot quite name, is the extraordinary magnetism of a woman who has simply stopped performing and started being. That woman exists. She is real. She is somewhere in the world right now, walking into rooms and changing them without trying to. And the only question worth asking is this: is that woman you? Sign number 2. Your body language tells a story of self-possession. Here is something fascinating that most people never consciously register, but that every single one of us absorbs on a deeply subconscious level every time we interact with another human being. The way a person inhabits their body tells you almost everything you need to know about their relationship with themselves. Body language is one of the oldest languages in the world. It predates speech by millions of years. Long before human beings had words, we had posture and movement and gaze and proximity, and our nervous systems are still exquisitely, almost embarrassingly, attuned to all of it. We read other people's bodies the way some people read books, constantly, automatically, fluently, and mostly without realizing we're doing it at all. And here is what the body language of a truly attractive older woman communicates, and why it is so extraordinarily compelling to anyone who encounters it. She takes up space, not aggressively, not as a statement or a performance, simply naturally, as though it has never occurred to her to make herself smaller. She sits with her back straight, not because she's rigid, but because she is at ease in her own body. She walks without hurrying unnecessarily. There is a quality of intention to her movement, a sense that she is going somewhere because she has chosen to go there, not because she is fleeing something or rushing to please someone. She makes eye contact not because she is trying to assert dominance, but because she is genuinely present, genuinely interested, genuinely here. Compare this with what contracted, self-conscious body language communicates. And I say this with enormous compassion because most of us have been there. Hunched shoulders, the arms folded across the body as a kind of armor, gaze that drops or darts away when held too long, movements that are small, quick, apologetic, the body of a person who is, in some deep and fundamental way, not entirely sure they have the right to exist as fully as they wish they could. The shift from contracted to expansive body language is one of the most visible and most profound expressions of the inner journey a woman takes as she grows into herself. It is the body catching up with the soul's realization, I belong here, I have the right to be here, I do not need to apologize for taking up space in this world. Yet research in social and body psychology, including the landmark work done on what is sometimes called power posing and embodied cognition, consistently shows that the way a person holds their body not only communicates something to others, but actually influences the person's own hormonal state, their confidence, and their sense of personal power. When you carry yourself with ease, you don't just appear more confident, you actually become more confident. The relationship between inner state and outer expression is not one-directional. It flows both ways. But here's the thing about the attractive older woman's body language. It is not manufactured. It is not the result of standing in front of a mirror and practicing a powerful pose. It is the natural, organic expression of an inner shift that has taken years to complete. It is the body learning to reflect the truth that the soul has finally accepted. And because it is genuine rather than performed, it carries a weight and a credibility that cannot be faked. There is also something deeply attractive about the quality of attention that a self-possessed woman gives. She listens with her whole body. When you speak to her, she turns towards you, not because social convention dictates it, but because she is genuinely interested in what you have to say. And you feel that interest, you feel it in your whole nervous system, and it is one of the most profoundly validating experiences a human being can have. To be truly seen, truly listened to, truly attended to by someone whose attention you have earned not by performing, but simply by speaking. There is also the matter of touch, the way a woman who is at ease in her body moves through the physical world. She doesn't flinch unnecessarily. She doesn't hold herself away from life. When she reaches out to touch someone's arm in conversation, it is natural and warm. When she moves through a crowded room, there is grace in how she navigates the space, not the self-conscious grace of someone who has been told to be graceful, but the natural ease of someone who has made peace with the body they inhabit. This self-possession is not something that youth typically carries. Youth often comes with a kind of bodily self-consciousness, an awareness of how you are being perceived that makes it difficult to simply be inside your own body without monitoring it from the outside at the same time. The woman who has moved through decades of life, who has been through illness and recovery, through pregnancy and loss, through the profound physical and emotional changes that time brings. She has had the opportunity to develop a relationship with her body that is based on something deeper and more durable than how it looks, based on what it has survived, what it has given, what it has carried. And when a woman arrives at that kind of relationship with her body, when she inhabits it with ease and ownership and a kind of quiet pride in everything it has endured, the effect on everyone around her is profound. It communicates without a single word. I am comfortable in this body. I am at home in this life. I am not afraid of taking up space in this world. And if there is a single sentence that captures the essence of attractive self-possession, it might be that one. Now, are you walking through the world taking up the space you deserve? Are you sitting in the rooms you enter as though you belong there? Because you do. Are you meeting people's eyes with the steady, genuine gaze of a woman who knows her own worth? If yes, then your body is already speaking a language that is far more compelling than you may have realized. Sign number 3. You have developed the rare and extraordinary art of genuinely listening. We live in an age of noise, an age of performance, an age where everyone has a platform and everyone is speaking, and the content of what is being said has sometimes become secondary to the volume with which it is delivered. We live in an age where the ability to truly, deeply, attentively listen to another human being has become one of the rarest and most precious things in the world. And here is something that years of life tend to teach, if you let them: the difference between hearing and listening, the difference between waiting for your turn to speak and actually being present with what someone else is saying, the difference between responding and truly connecting. A highly attractive older woman has in most cases learned this distinction through lived experience. She has been on both sides of the equation. She has had the experience of speaking to someone who wasn't really there, who was physically present but emotionally absent, whose eyes were on you, but whose mind was already composing the next thing they were going to say. She knows what that feels like, the quiet loneliness of speaking into a void. And she has usually also had the profound, transformative experience of being truly listened to, of speaking to someone whose entire quality of attention communicated, "You matter to me, what you're saying matters to me, I am here, fully here, just for you." And she knows what that feels like too, how it opens something in you, how it makes you feel safe to be more honest, more vulnerable, more real than you might otherwise dare to be. And somewhere along the way, she has chosen to become that person for others. The capacity for genuine, deep, present listening is attractive in a way that is difficult to overstate. Research in relationship psychology consistently identifies feeling heard and understood as one of the most powerful predictors of connection, intimacy, and attraction. More than looks, more than shared interests, more than humor or intelligence or any other quality we typically name when we're listing what we find attractive. The simple, profound, increasingly rare experience of being genuinely, attentively listened to creates a depth of connection that almost nothing else can replicate. And when you are the person who provides that experience, when you are the one who listens not with one eye on your phone and one ear on the background noise and your mind already 3 steps ahead, but with your full and genuine presence, people feel it. They feel it in their bones. They walk away from a conversation with you feeling lighter, clearer, more themselves, more valued. They remember how you made them feel long after they've forgotten what you said. And they are drawn back to you over and over, with an almost magnetic pull that they may not fully understand but cannot deny. The attractive older woman who has developed this gift listens not to formulate a response. She listens to understand. She listens because she is genuinely curious about the inner life of the person in front of her. And that curiosity is itself magnetic, because human beings are starved for genuine curiosity about their inner lives. We spend so much of our lives being seen and not truly known, being noticed for our surfaces and not our depths, being talked at, evaluated, judged, agreed with, or disagreed with, but rarely being truly, carefully, curiously heard. There is also a quality to this kind of listening that communicates something powerful about the listener's own sense of security. Only a person who is genuinely secure in themselves can afford to give their full, undivided attention to someone else. People who are insecure, anxious, or performing are too busy monitoring themselves to be fully present with another person. The capacity to truly listen is, in this sense, a marker of a kind of psychological abundance, a sense of having enough room inside yourself to hold space for someone else's experience alongside your own. The attractive older woman often develops this capacity through the very experiences that might have felt like setbacks. Through loss, she has learned to be present with grief, her own and others. Through difficult relationships, she has learned to hear what is said beneath what is spoken. Through hard conversations she had to navigate, she has learned that the space between words is as important as the words themselves. Through the years of learning and growing and sometimes falling apart and putting herself back together, she has developed an emotional fluency that allows her to be with another person in a way that younger, less experienced versions of herself simply could not. When you sit down with a highly attractive older woman and talk to her, you often notice something unusual. You end up telling her more than you intended to. You go deeper, faster than you normally would. You find yourself saying things you haven't said to anyone else, or at least haven't said out loud in a very long time. And you leave feeling mysteriously seen, mysteriously understood, mysteriously more yourself than you felt when you arrived. That is not an accident. That is the gift of genuine listening, and it is one of the most irresistibly attractive qualities a human being can possess. Think for a moment about the conversations you have most recently had, when someone was speaking to you, a friend, a partner, a child, a colleague. Were you truly there? Were you with them, in the room, in the moment, in the space between their words? Or were you half somewhere else, half composing your next thought, half monitoring your own experience while they spoke? I ask not to judge, because this is something all of us are working on, all of us can grow in, but because the women who have made the shift into genuine presence in their listening are the ones who often barely recognize what a profound gift they are giving. They think, I just listened. They don't realize that what they just offered someone was something rarer and more valuable than almost anything else they could have given. If you are a woman who has learned to truly listen, if people regularly find themselves telling you things they don't tell others, if they seek your counsel not because you always have answers, but because being in your presence helps them find their own, then you carry a gift, an extraordinary, attractive, quietly powerful gift, and you may have no idea just how brightly it shines. Sign number 4. You know how to hold boundaries without needing to build walls. This is one of the most psychologically sophisticated qualities a person can develop, and it is one that almost universally requires years of living, loving, and sometimes being hurt in order to truly understand. The difference between a boundary and a wall, the difference between self-protection rooted in wisdom and self-protection rooted in fear, the difference between knowing where you end and another person begins and keeping that space with grace versus shutting the world out to avoid the risk of ever being hurt again. Both strategies have the same surface appearance sometimes. Both can look like a woman who knows what she will and will not accept. But the experience of being on the receiving end of these two strategies is entirely different. Entirely. When you are in the presence of a woman who holds genuine, healthy, hard-won boundaries, you feel something interesting. You feel safe. You feel like you know where you stand. You feel like this is a person of integrity, a person who means what she says and says what she means. A person who will not suddenly shift the landscape of what is acceptable and leave you scrambling to adjust. And paradoxically, or perhaps not so paradoxically when you think about it, this makes her enormously appealing, because safety and predictability and integrity in a world full of people who say one thing and mean another, who agree to things they resent, who have unspoken rules that you constantly violate without knowing they exist. These qualities are extraordinarily attractive. The woman with walls, on the other hand, is a different experience. She may seem strong, she may even seem confident, but there is a quality of closedness about her, a sense of distance, a feeling that no matter how close you get, there is still a pane of glass between you and the real her. And people feel this too, not always consciously, but in the slight sense of unease, the slight feeling that intimacy is being offered in a limited and controlled way, that true closeness is possible up to a point and no further. Here is the truth. Walls are built by people who have been hurt and haven't yet healed. Boundaries are built by people who have been hurt, have healed, have learned from that hurt, and have integrated the lesson without letting it close them off. Walls say, I cannot afford to be hurt again, so I will not let anyone close enough to try. Boundaries say, I know my own worth. I know what I need and what I will not accept, and I will communicate that clearly. But I am still open, still warm, still willing to love and be loved within the parameters of what is healthy for me. The highly attractive older woman typically moves from walls to boundaries over the course of her journey. This transition is not easy. It requires a great deal of inner work, the kind of work that involves sitting with old pain rather than numbing it, examining the patterns of the past rather than repeating them, learning to distinguish between genuine threats and the ghosts of old wounds. It requires developing what psychologists call differentiation, the capacity to be in close relationship with another person while remaining fully yourself, fully intact without either losing yourself in them or pushing them away to protect what you've built. When a woman achieves this, and it is an achievement, a genuine and hard-won achievement, the effect on her relationships is profound. She stops attracting people who want to tear down her walls as a conquest, because she no longer has walls to tear down. Instead, she attracts people who are capable of respecting genuine limits, who appreciate clarity and integrity, who feel safer themselves in the presence of someone who knows herself well enough to know what she needs. And here is the particularly attractive aspect of this quality. A woman with healthy boundaries is not easy to manipulate. She cannot be guilt-tripped into abandoning herself. She cannot be sweet-talked into tolerating disrespect. She cannot be gradually, incrementally pushed past what is acceptable, because she monitors that line with a quiet but absolute consistency. And while some people find this difficult or even threatening, people of genuine depth and character find it extraordinarily attractive, because it communicates, this is a woman of integrity. This is a woman who knows herself. This is a woman who will not pretend things are fine when they aren't, who will not say yes when she means no, who will not fold in the face of pressure or manipulation. People of good character, the people worth having in your life, do not want a woman who will bend herself out of shape to accommodate them. They want a woman who is real, who is whole, whose yes means yes and whose no means no, who brings herself fully and honestly to every interaction. The boundary-holding woman is also, importantly, someone who communicates. She doesn't expect people to read her mind. She doesn't silently seethe and then explode. She says clearly and calmly and without excessive drama, "This doesn't work for me. I need something different. This is what I can offer, and this is what I need in return." And then she means it. and she follows through, and over time, people learn that her words can be trusted absolutely. This combination, clarity, integrity, warmth, and the willingness to communicate honestly even when it is uncomfortable, creates a very specific kind of magnetic pull. It draws in people who are capable of genuine connection, and it quietly, gently, inevitably filters out the people who are looking for someone more easily managed. Both of those outcomes, being drawn toward better people and naturally moving away from ones who aren't healthy for you, are not just markers of attractiveness. They are markers of psychological health. And psychological health in a person who has worked hard to achieve it through everything life has thrown at them is one of the most breathtakingly beautiful things there is. Think about the last time someone tried to convince you to do something that felt wrong to you. Not wrong in a vague, uncertain way, but wrong in the clear, quiet way that your gut knows. Did you hold your ground? Did you say clearly and calmly what was true for you? Or did you fold because the discomfort of conflict felt worse in the moment than the discomfort of abandoning what you knew was right for you? These moments, small and large, trivial and profound, are the moments in which a woman either maintains her integrity or erodes it. And the woman who has learned, through experience and sometimes through pain, to hold that line with grace, to say this clearly and lovingly and without needing to make anyone wrong, is a woman of extraordinary power, an extraordinary magnetism, an extraordinary and deeply appealing inner authority. If you are that woman, or if you are becoming her, know this: the world notices. It may not always thank you immediately. Boundaries are not always welcomed in the moment. But in the long run, in the relationships and experiences that matter, the women who know what they will and will not accept consistently attract more of what is genuinely right for them and less of what isn't. And there is nothing more attractive in this world than a woman who knows her own worth and acts accordingly. Sign number 5. You carry depth, and depth is endlessly fascinating. Surface attraction fades quickly. It has to. A face, a figure, a first impression. These things can captivate for a moment, but they cannot sustain connection over time. For connection to deepen, for attraction to become something real and lasting, rather than something brief and forgettable, there must be depth beneath the surface. There must be layers. There must be substance. There must be a life that has been lived in a particular, specific, irreplaceable way, and the wisdom and perspective and complexity that comes from living it. The highly attractive older woman has depth, not in an abstract or intellectual sense, though she is often intellectually rich as well, but in the most human sense. She has a relationship with her own inner life that is rich, layered, and alive. She knows what she believes and why. She knows what she has been through and what it has taught her. She knows what she loves and what repels her, and what challenges her and what brings her back to herself. She has a relationship with joy and grief and anger and longing and wonder that is rooted in genuine embodied experience rather than theory. And this depth, this lived, earned, embodied depth, is endlessly fascinating to encounter. Think about the difference between reading a map of a place and actually visiting it. The map can tell you a great deal. It can give you an overview, a structure, a sense of the terrain. But when you actually go there, when you walk the streets, smell the air, discover the hidden alleys and the unexpected beauties and the particular light at a particular time of day, you encounter something that no map can capture: the experience of actual depth, actual particularity, actual life. A woman with depth is like that. You can know a great deal about her. You can have long conversations with her and come away with a rich sense of who she is. And then you encounter her again in a different moment or a different context, and you discover another layer, something you hadn't seen before, something unexpected that makes you realize, with delight and something approaching awe, that she is more than you had understood, that she is, in fact, inexhaustible, that you could spend years in her company and still be discovering new things about her. This inexhaustibility is one of the most powerful and least talked about dimensions of genuine attraction. It is why we speak of being fascinated by someone, because fascination, by definition, implies something that does not run out, something that keeps offering more the more attention you give it. The depth a woman develops over years of living comes from many sources. It comes from the intellectual curiosity she has nurtured, the books she has read, the ideas she has pursued, the questions she has never stopped asking about herself and the world. It comes from the emotional experiences she has moved through, the loves and losses that have expanded her capacity for feeling, that have given her an emotional range and empathy that cannot be manufactured. It comes from the practical wisdom she has accumulated, the knowledge of how things actually work, of what matters in the long run, of how people behave under pressure, of what it takes to survive and recover and keep going. It comes from the particular, specific, entirely her own way she has put it all together into a perspective on life that is genuinely, beautifully, irreplaceably hers. People are drawn to depth because depth is rare, and because depth offers something that surfaces cannot: the possibility of real connection. Not just the pleasant, comfortable connection of shared interests or similar tastes, but the profound, slightly terrifying, entirely enlivening connection of being in the presence of a fully alive inner world that is genuinely different from your own, and choosing to engage with it, to learn from it, to be changed by it. There is also something attractive about depth that relates directly to conversation. The highly attractive older woman is almost universally someone who can hold a conversation that goes somewhere, that starts in one place and moves through honesty and genuine curiosity and the willingness to follow a thought wherever it leads, to somewhere unexpected. She is comfortable with complexity and ambiguity. She doesn't need conversations to be neat and conclusive and comfortable. She can sit with an unanswered question, a paradox, a difficulty, and explore it with genuine interest rather than rushing to resolve it. This makes talking to her a genuinely enlivening experience. You leave conversations with her not bored or drained or vaguely unsatisfied, but somehow more alive, more curious, more interested in your own thinking than you were before. And this effect, the effect of being made more yourself by someone's company, is perhaps the deepest and most lasting kind of attraction there is. Depth also means honesty. A woman who has moved through enough of life to have perspective is typically less willing to pretend, less interested in comfortable half-truths, less invested in the social fictions that keep conversations pleasant but shallow. She will tell you what she actually thinks, kindly but honestly. She will not praise your bad idea to spare your feelings. She will not pretend to find your story interesting when she doesn't. She will not laugh at the joke that isn't funny or agree with the opinion she actually disagrees with. And while this honesty can occasionally be startling, can occasionally be the cold water of reality when you were hoping for warm agreement, in the long run, it makes her company absolutely invaluable. Because you know that when she says she believes in you, she means it. When she says your work is good, it's good. When she laughs, it's real. When she loves, she means it. And that love is not contingent on you being perfect or conforming to a role or keeping her comfortable. It is based on who you actually are, fully, honestly, completely. And that kind of love and that kind of honest engagement is what we all, at the deepest level, most desperately crave. There is a quality that people often describe in the most compelling women they know, a quality they reach for different words to name. Some call it wisdom, some call it groundedness, some call it depth of character, some simply say she has something without being able to name exactly what that something is. What they are circling around with all these different words is the quality of a fully lived life, internalized and integrated into a perspective that is at once uniquely personal and somehow universal. The woman who has this quality speaks from experience, not theory. She has tested her beliefs against reality and has kept what held and let go of what didn't. She has met herself at her worst and come to terms with what she found there. She has met herself at her best and learned not to be embarrassed by that either. She is, in the deepest sense, a fully realized human being, and fully realized human beings are the most attractive things in the world. Sign number 6. Your relationship with your own attractiveness has completely changed. Here is one of the most beautiful and counterintuitive paradoxes of the journey to becoming a highly attractive older woman. The women who are most magnetic, most compelling, most genuinely attractive are almost universally the ones who have stopped trying to be attractive in the old sense, who have stopped chasing the external standard, who have stopped measuring themselves against a scale designed by someone else for purposes that have nothing to do with their actual well-being or flourishing, who have, in the most liberating sense possible, stopped caring whether they fit a particular definition of attractive, and in doing so have stepped into a kind of genuine attractiveness that the people who are still chasing the external standard can only dream of. Let me explain what I mean, because this is subtle and important and easy to misunderstand. I am not saying that a highly attractive older woman has stopped caring about how she looks, or how she presents herself, or what she wears and how she carries herself. That is absolutely not what I mean. In fact, many of the most magnetic older women are also intensely alive to beauty, their own and the world's. They enjoy getting dressed. They take pleasure in their bodies. They invest in their appearance with genuine joy. The difference is the why. The difference is where the motivation comes from. The difference is the relationship with attractiveness, not the presence or absence of it as a value. A young woman, or a woman at any age who hasn't yet done this particular inner work, often pursues attractiveness from a place of anxiety. She makes herself attractive because she fears what will happen if she doesn't, because she has been told in countless direct and indirect ways that her acceptability is contingent on her appearance, because she lives with a background hum of insecurity that says, if you don't look right, you won't be loved, won't be wanted, won't be valued, won't be enough. And so her relationship with her own attractiveness is shadowed and anxious and exhausting, because it is driven by a fear that can never be fully satisfied, no matter how attractive she becomes. The highly attractive older woman has, over time and through experience, changed that relationship at its root. She has come to understand, really understand, not just as a nice idea, but as a lived truth, that her worth is not contingent on her appearance, that she is lovable and valuable and interesting and worthy of respect, not because she meets a particular standard of physical attractiveness, but simply because she is who she is. And this fundamental shift in inner belief transforms everything about how she relates to her own body, her own appearance, her own attractiveness. She now pursues attractiveness, when she does, from a place of joy rather than fear. She wears what she loves because it makes her feel alive and herself, and like the most beautiful version of who she is, not because she has calculated what is most likely to earn approval. She takes care of her body because she loves her body and values her health and enjoys feeling strong and capable and well, not because she is trying to approximate a standard set by a culture that profits from her insecurity. She chooses her style, her aesthetic, her way of presenting herself in the world from a place of genuine creative self-expression. and the result is something that is entirely, unmistakably, irreducibly hers. And people can feel this difference. People can feel the difference between a woman who is wearing her outfit with joy and a woman who is wearing it with anxiety. Between a woman who has done her makeup because she enjoys the ritual of it and a woman who has done it because she was afraid of how she'd look without it. Between a woman who laughs at the camera with genuine delight in her own image and a woman who is calculating the best angle and hoping the photograph won't be too cruel. Joy is magnetic. Fear is not. Ease is magnetic. Anxiety is not. Self-acceptance is magnetic. Self-rejection is not. And the highly attractive older woman who has shifted her relationship with her own attractiveness from fear to joy, from external reference to internal authority, is embodying something extraordinarily compelling. She is demonstrating, simply by being, that a woman's relationship with her own beauty can be a source of genuine pleasure rather than a source of chronic pain. And this is inspiring in a way that goes beyond aesthetics. It touches something deep in everyone who witnesses it. There is also something specifically attractive about a woman who has made peace with the physical changes that come with age. Not in a resigned, I've given up way, but in a genuine, these are the marks of my life and I am at peace with them way. The lines on her face are not signs of deterioration. They are the record of a life fully lived, of years of laughter and worry and joy and grief and squinting into the sun and crying and smiling and being entirely, utterly human. The gray in her hair is not a betrayal. It is evidence of time, of experience, of the accumulation of a life. And when a woman wears these physical realities with ease, with acceptance, with even a kind of quiet pride, the effect is breathtaking, because what she is communicating in the most physical and visible way possible is, I am not afraid of time. I am not at war with my own life. I am here, fully here, in this body that has carried me through everything, and I honor it, and I am not ashamed. That is not ordinary. That is not common. That is something you encounter rarely and remember forever. If you have made peace with your appearance, not in a defeated way, but in a genuinely accepting, genuinely loving way, if you have moved from doing what you do with your appearance out of fear to doing it out of joy, if you have found your style, your aesthetic, your way of presenting yourself that is entirely, authentically yours, then you are carrying one of the most quietly powerful and genuinely attractive qualities a woman can have, not just to others, to yourself. And the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation of everything. Sign number 7, your emotional intelligence is off the charts. There is a kind of intelligence that standardized tests don't measure, that academic performance doesn't capture, that the world's institutions have been remarkably slow to recognize and reward, despite the fact that it is, in many practical and human senses, the most important kind of intelligence there is. It is the intelligence of the emotional world, the ability to recognize, understand, regulate, and work skillfully with emotions, both your own and those of the people around you. And here is something worth knowing. Emotional intelligence, unlike many other forms of cognitive ability, grows consistently and substantially with age and experience. The more you have lived, the more you have loved and grieved and struggled and persevered and reflected on your experiences, the more emotionally intelligent you tend to become, not automatically, not without effort and honest self-examination, but consistently. The decades of a life fully lived are, in many ways, a graduate course in emotional intelligence. The highly attractive older woman tends to have extraordinarily developed emotional intelligence, and this is one of the most compelling and magnetic things about her. What does this look like practically? What does high emotional intelligence actually mean in the lived experience of being around this woman? It means she reads the room. She walks into a situation and immediately, almost instinctively, registers the emotional weather of the space. Who is comfortable, who is tense, who is hiding something, who is longing to be seen. She picks up on the subtle cues that most people miss. The slight tension in someone's voice, the particular quality of a smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes, the way a person holds their body when they are trying to appear more confident than they feel. And she responds to what is actually present, not to the surface presentation. It means she regulates her own emotions with extraordinary skill. This doesn't mean she suppresses them. Suppression is not regulation. It means she has a relationship with her own emotional life that is neither controlled by it nor cut off from it. She can feel grief without being destroyed by it. She can feel anger without either acting it out destructively or swallowing it until it becomes resentment. She can feel joy without becoming so attached to it that she falls apart when it passes. She moves through her emotional life with a quality of fluency, as someone moves through a familiar landscape, knowing where the rivers are, knowing which paths lead where, knowing that this too will change. It means she is comfortable with other people's emotions. She doesn't panic when someone cries. She doesn't become defensive when someone is angry. She doesn't minimize someone's pain to spare herself the discomfort of sitting with it. She can be with someone in their emotional experience without needing to fix it or resolve it or make it go away. And this quality, the capacity to simply be with another person in their experience without an agenda, is one of the most profound gifts one human being can offer another. It means she has perspective. She knows the difference between what is genuinely catastrophic and what merely feels catastrophic in the moment. She has been through enough to know that most crises are survivable, that most pain eventually passes, that what seems like the end of everything often turns out to be the beginning of something better, even when you can't see that yet. And she can offer this perspective gently, without dismissing the genuine difficulty of what someone is going through, in a way that is genuinely calming and genuinely helpful. It means she is empathetic, not in a performance of empathy, not in the careful phrases of someone who has been trained to seem empathic, but in the deep, genuine, you are not alone in this way that comes from having been through enough of your own pain to recognize it in others without judgment. She knows what it is to struggle. She knows what it is to fail and be ashamed of the failure. She knows what it is to love someone who hurt you or to hurt someone you loved. She knows what it is to be afraid and brave anyway. And this knowing creates a quality of presence that is unmistakable, a quality of genuine understanding that is not theoretical but earned. Research in relationship psychology and neuroscience increasingly identifies emotional intelligence as one of the most powerful predictors of relationship satisfaction, leadership effectiveness, and interpersonal attractiveness. It turns out that what people most need, most crave, most respond to in other human beings is not brilliance or beauty or success in the conventional sense, but the experience of being emotionally met, of being understood, of being with someone who genuinely gets it, who genuinely gets you, who can be with you in your human experience without judgment or distance or the need to make everything okay. And the highly attractive older woman who has developed this quality over decades of living and reflecting and growing, she provides this experience in abundance. She is the person people seek out when they are struggling. She is the person people feel safe being honest with. She is the person whose presence is genuinely regulating, whose company leaves you not just entertained or informed, but somehow more settled, more yourself, more at ease in your own life. There is a particular kind of attractive power in this that has nothing to do with conventional beauty standards and everything to do with who a woman actually is. It is the power of someone who truly understands the human experience, her own and others. and who brings that understanding to every interaction. And in a world that is starving for genuine connection, genuine understanding, and genuine care, this power is extraordinary. Are you the person people call when things go wrong? Are you the one whose presence somehow makes the room feel safer, more honest, more alive? Do people tell you things they haven't told anyone else? Do they come to you not necessarily for answers, but simply to be in the presence of someone who understands? If yes, then you are carrying one of the most magnetic and valuable qualities in the world. You may not see it as attractiveness, because it doesn't look like what we've been taught attractiveness looks like, but it is. It is, in fact, among the most profound and enduring and genuinely irresistible forms of attractiveness that exist. And the people in your life who are lucky enough to experience it know it, even if they don't always say it. Sign number 8. You have discovered your own story, and you are no longer ashamed of it. This is the 8th sign, and in many ways, it is the culmination of everything that has come before. It is the sign that brings all the others together, that gives them their deepest meaning, that is perhaps the most powerfully attractive quality of all. You have discovered your own story, and you are no longer ashamed of it. Let me explain what I mean by this, because it goes deeper than just being willing to talk about your past. It goes deeper than having overcome things and being willing to share that you overcame them. It is something more profound, more complete, more fundamental than that. Your story is everything that has made you who you are. The family you came from, with all its beauty and all its dysfunction, the choices you made that you are proud of, and the choices you made that you would make differently now. The relationships that shaped you, the ones that built you up and the ones that broke you open, the failures you experienced, the jobs you lost, the dreams you abandoned, the paths you took that turned out to be wrong turns, the losses you have sustained, the deaths, the endings, the things that once were and now are not, the times you let yourself down, and the times you showed up for yourself and others in ways that still to this day make you quietly proud. Your story is all of this, all of it. The beautiful and the difficult and the shameful and the triumphant and the confusing and the grief-soaked and the joy-lit parts of it. Everything. And here is what a highly attractive older woman has typically done with her story. She has claimed it, all of it. She has done the work, the sometimes agonizing, sometimes liberating work of looking honestly at every chapter of her life, including the ones she would have preferred not to have written, and finding in them not just regret or shame or self-judgment, but meaning, understanding, the sense of a life that for all its imperfections is genuinely and entirely hers. This is not the same as being glad for everything that has happened. It is not spiritual bypassing, the urge to skip over the genuine pain and difficulty of life by assigning it all cosmic meaning before you've actually processed it. It is something more honest and more hard-won than that. It is the result of having actually moved through the grief, the anger, the regret, having sat with all of it, having allowed it to be exactly as painful as it was, and coming out the other side with a relationship to your own history that is no longer defined primarily by what you wish had been different. The woman who has claimed her story is a woman who can say with genuine equanimity, "This is what happened to me, and this is what I did with it." She can talk about her difficult childhood without either minimizing it or defining herself entirely by it. She can discuss her failed marriage without either vilifying her ex-partner or assuming all the blame herself. She can acknowledge the times she was not her best self, the times she was unkind or cowardly or self-destructive, without those moments collapsing into her entire identity. She can speak of her losses without drowning in them. She can celebrate her wins without needing them to be more than they are. She carries her story with the confidence of someone who has accepted the whole of it, not just the parts that look good, but all of it, and has made peace with the whole of it, and has found in the whole of it the particular, irreplaceable, entirely her own human being that she has become. And this is extraordinarily, breathtakingly attractive. Why? Because authenticity is attractive. We've established that. But the particular authenticity of someone who has claimed their whole story, including the parts that took courage to claim, is on a different level entirely. It is the authenticity of someone who has done real work, who has faced real things, who has arrived at a real and earned peace with themselves. This is not the confidence of someone who has never been tested. This is the confidence of someone who has been tested repeatedly and has come through each time and carries the evidence of those tests in the very texture of who they are. There is also something specifically compelling about the woman who can tell her story with honesty and humor, who can look back at the chapters she would rather have skipped and find in them not just pain, but also, maybe after a certain amount of distance, something that might almost be described as absurdity or irony or even a kind of dark comedy. The woman who can laugh genuinely and without bitterness at some of the things she's been through, not because they weren't hard, but because she has moved far enough past them to see the full picture rather than just the pain of the moment. This woman is irresistible. She demonstrates, simply by being able to do this, that she is not a prisoner of her past, that she has digested her experiences rather than being defined by them, that she is, in the most profound sense, free. And people feel this freedom. People are drawn to it. See, because most of us carry our stories like burdens, like things we are dragging behind us, or like secrets we are managing carefully, or like evidence in a case we are perpetually building against ourselves. We are so hungry to encounter someone who carries their story differently, who carries it lightly, not because it has been light, but because they have done the work to free themselves from its weight. The woman who has done this work, who has transformed her story from a burden into simply the life she has lived, fully and honestly, and sometimes badly and sometimes beautifully, is one of the most compelling human beings you will ever encounter. She is evidence that it is possible to live through everything and come out the other side not just intact, but somehow more yourself than ever. And that evidence is, for the rest of us, genuinely, profoundly, searingly attractive. One more thing about this 8th sign, because I think it deserves to be said clearly. Claiming your story does not mean oversharing. It does not mean processing your past in public or turning every conversation into a therapy session or performing your healing for an audience. The woman who has truly claimed her story does not need to tell it constantly. She carries it with her, integrated into who she is, and it informs how she speaks and moves and thinks and relates, without always being explicitly stated. When she does share from her story, it is with intention and generosity, the desire to offer something from her own experience that might genuinely help or connect with the person she's with. Not to be interesting or impressive or to claim a kind of credibility through suffering, but simply to be honest and real and human in the way that genuine connection requires. The woman who has made peace with her story is a woman at peace with herself, and a woman at peace with herself is, now and always, one of the most powerful and most beautiful things in this world. Bringing it all together, the truth about attractive older women. Let me take a moment now, before we close, to bring these 8 signs together, because the picture they paint collectively is not just a list of attractive qualities. It is a portrait of a particular kind of woman at a particular moment in her journey. A woman who has done the work, who has lived the life, who has moved through the fire and discovered that what was refined in the burning was not destroyed, but made more essentially herself. She has stopped performing and started simply being. She inhabits her body with self-possession and ease. She listens with her whole self, giving the rare and precious gift of genuine presence. She holds her boundaries with grace rather than walls. She carries the inexhaustible depth of a life fully lived. She has made peace with her own attractiveness and wears it from the inside out. She moves through the emotional world with an intelligence that is rare and profound and genuinely invaluable. And she has claimed her story, all of it, and carries it not as a burden, but as the evidence of everything she has survived and become. This woman is not a type. She is not a category. She is not defined by her age, her appearance, her marital status, her career, or any single external fact about her life. She is defined by her relationship with herself, the depth and honesty and kindness of it, and by the way that relationship radiates outward into everything she touches. She may or may not have smooth skin. She may or may not have the body she had at 30. She may or may not fit any particular standard of conventional physical beauty. None of that is the source of her magnetism. The source of her magnetism is something that cannot be applied from the outside, cannot be purchased at a counter or achieved by a procedure. It is grown from the inside, through years of living and learning and sometimes failing and always getting back up, through the willingness to be honest with herself, even when the truth was uncomfortable, through the commitment to keep growing even when growth was painful. It is, in the deepest sense, the most authentic expression of who she is, and the world is drawn to it, compelled by it, moved by it, even when she has absolutely no idea that it is happening. If you recognize yourself in any of these signs, if reading this has felt, in some moments, like looking into a mirror, then I want you to hear this clearly. You are more than you know. You carry more than you realize. The world around you notices things in you that you may have stopped noticing in yourself. And the life you have lived, with all its complexity and beauty and difficulty and grace, has shaped you into someone extraordinary, not in spite of the years, because of them. I want to close with something that I hope you will carry with you long after this video is over. Something that I think is, in a way, the heart of everything we've been exploring today. We live in a culture that has an extraordinarily short memory when it comes to women. A culture that celebrates the new, the young, the unwritten. A culture that treats the accumulated richness of a woman's inner life, her wisdom, her depth, her hard-won perspective, her ability to love and know and understand and discern, as though these things either don't exist or don't matter. A culture that looks at a woman who has lived and says, "You were something once, before time happened to you." This is not just wrong. It is one of the greatest acts of collective blindness our culture perpetuates. It has cost women immeasurably, in self-confidence, in the claiming of their own power, in the ability to fully inhabit the extraordinary people they have become. And it has cost the world the full benefit of what mature, wise, but deeply self-knowing women have to offer. The truth is this: the woman who has moved through decades of real living, who has developed depth and wisdom and emotional intelligence and authentic presence and the courage to hold her own ground, this woman is not less than she was. She is more. She is unambiguously, profoundly, extraordinarily more. And the attraction she generates, quiet, magnetic, lasting, real, is not the loud flash of early youth. It is the deep, steady light of a soul that knows itself and has made peace with what it knows and continues to grow toward more light. That is not a consolation prize. That is the destination. And if you are already there or making your way there, I see you, I honor you, and I think you are magnificent. And that brings us to the end of today's video. And I want to say something before we go. Thank you. Thank you for being here, for giving this content your time and your attention, for being the kind of person who cares about growing and understanding yourself more deeply. There is something genuinely wonderful about you for showing up here, and I don't want that to go unsaid. If this video resonated with you, if something in these 8 signs made you feel more seen, more understood, more aware of qualities in yourself that you may have been undervaluing, I would be so grateful if you would take just a moment right now to do a few things for me. First, hit the like button. I know it's a small gesture, but it genuinely makes a significant difference in how many women this content reaches. Every like tells the algorithm that this is content worth sharing, and more women finding their way to this channel means more women hearing the things they most need to hear. So please like this video. Second, leave a comment below. Tell me which of these 8 signs feels most like you, or which one you're still working toward. Tell me which part of this video stopped you in your tracks, which sentence you want to write on a sticky note and put on your bathroom mirror. I genuinely read every comment, and your engagement with this content means more than you know. This community is built on the real, honest human conversations happening in the comment section, and I want to hear from you. Third, share this video. Think right now of a woman in your life who needs to hear this, a friend who has been doubting herself, a mother who has forgotten how remarkable she is, a colleague who doesn't realize how magnetic her presence is, a sister who has been selling herself short for too long. Send this video to her. It might be exactly what she needed today. Fourth, if you haven't already subscribed to the Heart Code, do that right now. This channel is devoted entirely to the deep psychology of women, love, self-worth, and the profound complexity of the feminine experience. We don't do surface here. We go to the places that actually matter. And if that is the kind of content you want in your life, content that takes you seriously, that treats your inner life with the depth and care it deserves, that meets you where you are and helps you understand yourself and your world more clearly, then this is your channel. Subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and come back. We have so much more to explore together. And finally, if this content has touched your heart, if it has given you something you feel genuinely grateful for, and you want to directly support the work that makes it possible, you can do that through Super Thanks. It is a direct, tangible way of saying, this matters to me, and I want to help make sure it keeps being created. Every contribution is seen and deeply appreciated, and it directly supports our ability to keep creating content at this depth and this quality. Thank you in advance if you choose to do that. I will leave you today with this thought, and I hope it stays with you for a long time. The woman you are right now, with all your history, all your depth, all your hard-won wisdom, all the things you've been through and survived and learned and become, that woman is not finished. She is not past her peak. She is not yesterday's story. She is right here, right now, alive and growing and extraordinary. And the best is, remarkably, still ahead. I'll see you in the next video.